David is a high school student who lives in the small town of Ann Arbor, Michigan. One day after school, he decides to tell his classmate Millie how he feels about her. He gives her a beautiful snow globe from Paris that he worked hard to buy. Millie smiles and thanks him. She really likes the gift. But before they can enjoy the moment, a bully named Mark walks over. He grabs the snow globe from Millie and refuses to give it back. David tells Mark to return it, but Mark laughs and throws the snow globe into a frozen lake. Without thinking, David runs onto the ice to get the gift back. He picks it up, but the ice suddenly cracks. David falls into the freezing water. Millie screams and wants to help him, but Mark stops her. He says she will only make the situation worse. Under the water, David cannot breathe. He thinks he is going to die. Then, something amazing happens. In a single second, David suddenly appears inside a public library somewhere in the city. He is completely wet, scared, and confused. He has no idea how he got there, but he knows one thing: he is alive. David goes back home. His life has always been difficult. His mother left when he was a child, and now he lives with his cruel father, William, who never shows him any love. When David enters the house, William sees that he is soaking wet and asks what happened. David is too shocked to answer. He walks into his bedroom and locks the door. This makes William even angrier. He breaks the door open and rushes inside, but when he enters the room, he is shocked. David has disappeared. At that same moment, David suddenly appears back inside the public library. Now he starts to understand the truth. He has the power to teleport. He can instantly move from one place to another. Still confused, David tries to leave the library, but the doors are locked. Feeling angry and frustrated, he suddenly teleports again. This time, he appears inside his own bedroom. Now David knows his new power is real. For the first time in his life, he believes he can escape his unhappy home and start a better life. He quickly packs his belongings and decides to leave town forever. Before leaving, he wants to visit one last person, Millie. Millie is heartbroken because she believes David died in the frozen lake. She lies on her bed crying. Suddenly, she hears a strange noise coming from her garden. When she goes outside, she sees the snow globe David gave her lying on the ground. Millie is confused and scared. She has no idea how David's snow globe suddenly appeared in her garden. Without saying goodbye to anyone, David leaves his hometown and starts a new life. He rents a small hotel room and begins living alone for the first time. Wanting to understand his new power, David goes to the town square and practices teleporting. Since he is still learning, he makes a mistake and suddenly appears inside a tree. He falls to the ground and gets hurt. Later, David returns to his hotel room and looks through a travel guide. He starts teleporting to famous places shown in the book, testing his power again and again. During one jump, David suddenly appears inside a building that looks familiar. He quickly realizes he has been there before. That's when he understands the secret of his power. He can teleport only to places he has already seen or clearly remembers. Now that he knows how his power works, David makes a dangerous plan. During the day, he visits a city bank. He politely asks a security guard to show him the customer restroom. As he walks through the bank, he carefully looks at everything around him. When he passes the bank vault, he pays close attention and memorizes the area. That night, David begins his first robbery. He gathers a few tools and teleports into the bank's restroom. From there, he teleports directly inside the vault. Within minutes, he steals a large amount of money and escapes. David repeats the same plan at different banks. Soon, he becomes extremely rich. With all his money, he buys everything he ever wanted. As the years pass, his teleporting skills become even better. He moves into a huge luxury apartment and even teleports from one room to another just for fun. Although David has an incredible power, he never uses it to help other people. Instead, he only thinks about himself and enjoys his rich lifestyle. He travels all over the world in seconds. He surfs on empty beaches, stands on top of the ancient pyramids in Egypt, and visits beautiful places that most people can only dream of seeing. At the same time, deep inside a forest, a man named Roland leads a team of armed hunters. They quietly place special electric traps between the trees. Anyone who touches the wires gets shocked and captured. It is revealed that Roland and his team hunt people called jumpers, humans who have the power to teleport. Whenever they catch a jumper, they kill them without mercy. That same night, David returns to his luxury apartment, believing he is safe. But as soon as he enters, he is suddenly attacked. Roland has been waiting for him. Roland tells David a shocking truth. He has been tracking David for more than 8 years. David tries to escape by teleporting, but Roland uses a special electric weapon that shocks him. The electricity blocks David's teleporting ability, making it impossible for him to jump away. With David trapped, Roland attacks again and demands to know how David managed to stay hidden for so many years. Desperate to escape, David looks at a photo on his wall and tries to teleport, but the electricity has made him too weak. Instead of escaping, David crashes onto the second floor of his apartment. Roland quickly climbs to the second floor using a ladder made from bookshelves He chases David and shocks him again with his electric weapon. Roland keeps asking the same question. How did you stay hidden for all these years? David refuses to answer. Angry, Roland throws David off the second floor and tries to kill him with his electric staff. At the last second, David dodges the attack. As he tries to escape, one of Roland's traps catches him. An electric cable wraps tightly around David's body, stopping him from teleporting. Using the little strength he has left, David teleports into his secret vault. There, he quickly grabs a cutting tool, cuts the electric cable, and teleports away before Roland can catch him. David escapes safely. Roland is furious. He contacts the Jumper Hunters headquarters and orders every agent to search for David immediately. The next day, David decides to visit Millie's house. Millie's mother is surprised and happy to see him alive. She invites him inside. David asks where Millie is. Her mother tells him that Millie now works at a local bar. David goes there right away. When he sees Millie, he realizes she has moved on with her life after believing he had died. Feeling nervous, David decides to leave without talking to her. But before he can leave, Mark suddenly sees him. Mark is shocked that David is alive and starts shouting, attracting everyone's attention. David tries to walk away peacefully, but Mark keeps yelling at him. Hearing the noise, Millie comes over to see what is happening. While they are talking, Mark starts insulting Millie again. David loses his patience and punches Mark in the face. Mark gets angry and drags David outside. He punches and kicks David, believing he has finally defeated his old rival. Mark proudly thinks he has won, but suddenly, David grabs him and teleports away. In the blink of an eye, they both appear inside a bank vault. Mark is terrified and has no idea how they got there. Scared for his life, he begs David to let him go. David leaves Mark locked inside the vault and teleports back to the bar. He finally talks to Millie. Millie asks where he has been for all these years. David lies and tells her that he got a great job at a bank and became very rich. Then he tells her that he is planning a trip to Rome. He knows that visiting Rome has always been Millie's biggest dream. David invites Millie to travel with him to Rome. Since visiting Rome has always been her dream, she happily agrees. Soon, they arrive in Rome together. At the same time, back home, Roland goes to a police station. He asks the police chief for permission to question Mark, who has filed a complaint against David. The chief refuses because Roland does not have a federal warrant. Angry, Roland knocks the police chief unconscious and enters the interrogation room. After questioning Mark, Roland learns that David and Millie are on a trip to Rome. Meanwhile, David and Millie visit the famous Colosseum. When they arrive, a security guard tells them that the Colosseum is closed. David quietly uses his teleporting power without anyone noticing. He secretly opens a gate and takes Millie inside. The two of them explore the ancient building all by themselves. From the rooftops above, a mysterious young man watches David. A few moments later, the stranger appears in front of him and introduces himself as Griffin. Griffin tells David that he also has the power to teleport. David is shocked and asks how that is possible. Griffin explains that people with teleporting powers are called jumpers. He also warns David that jumpers are always hunted by dangerous people. Just then, two hunters suddenly arrive. David quickly teleports to the upper level of the Colosseum to escape. Griffin stays behind and fights the hunters with a baseball bat. Although David escapes at first, one of the hunters catches him in a special trap and pulls him back into the middle of the Colosseum. Griffin realizes that Millie could be in danger. He teleports around the arena at high speed, slams one hunter into a wall, and throws another hunter off the rocks, knocking him unconscious. After the fight, Griffin tells David the truth. The hunters are called the Paladins. Their mission is to find and kill every jumper in the world. Knowing the Paladins have now seen him, Griffin decides to leave. David follows Griffin by using his teleport trail, but Griffin becomes angry and tells David to stop following him and stay away. Later, David returns to Millie, and they try to leave together. Before they can go, police officers stop them and arrest both of them. At the police station, Millie asks the officers to let David go. The officers ignore her and tell her to wait quietly in the lobby. While David is being questioned, the police officer receives a message saying that the local deputy has arrived. The officer leaves the room for a moment. Suddenly, something unbelievable happens. A woman appears in front of David. It is his mother Mary, who disappeared from his life many years ago. She calmly unlocks David's handcuffs and gives him the keys. Mary tells David to leave immediately. She also warns him not to take Millie with him. She says that if Millie stays with him, the Paladins could kill her. David is confused and wants answers. He tries to follow his mother, but a police officer suddenly grabs him. To escape, David teleports the officer to a large statue in Egypt. Then he instantly teleports back to the police station. David meets Millie again and tells her they must leave Rome immediately. Millie is confused and asks why he is acting so strangely, but David refuses to explain. They quickly pack their bags and go to the airport. Before the flight, David tells Millie that he cannot go with her. He says he does not want to put her in danger because of his life. Heartbroken and confused, Millie gets on the plane alone. Meanwhile, back in Ann Arbor, Roland goes to David's old house. David's father, William, opens the door. Roland pretends to be a federal agent and asks William where David is. William says he has not seen David for 8 years, and that even the police could never find him. Roland then asks about David's mother. William says she left the family when David was only 5 years old and never came back. At the same time, Griffin is relaxing at his home and playing video games. Nearby lies the dead body of one of the paladins he defeated earlier. Suddenly, David teleports into Griffin's house. He demands to know why the paladins hunt jumpers when they have done nothing wrong. Griffin explains the truth. For hundreds of years since medieval times, the paladins have hunted jumpers. Because of their beliefs, they think people with teleporting powers should not exist. Griffin also reveals something even more frightening. The paladins have killed entire families just to find and destroy a single jumper. Hearing this, David becomes terrified. He immediately teleports to his father's house. When he arrives, he is devastated. His father has been badly attacked and is close to death. Without wasting a second, David teleports him to a hospital. The next day, David returns to Griffin's house. Griffin casually says that he has just defeated another paladin and threw the body into the Atlantic Ocean for the sharks. David asks to see Griffin's collection of photos so he can use them to find Roland and protect Millie. Griffin refuses. He warns David that Roland is much more dangerous than he looks, but David insists that they should work together. He says that as long as Roland is alive, Millie will never be safe. Griffin still refuses and tells David to solve his own problems. Ignoring Griffin's warning, David secretly follows Griffin's teleport trail. A few seconds later, he arrives inside the kitchen of a restaurant in Japan. David continues following Griffin through the busy streets of Tokyo. Once again, David asks Griffin to join him. He says that if they work together, they can finally defeat Roland. Griffin still refuses and teleports into a luxury car dealership. The two of them steal an expensive sports car and race through the city. Using their teleporting powers, they move the car through traffic in amazing ways. During the ride, Griffin tells David about another jumper. That jumper once tried to teleport an entire building. The jump required too much power, and the jumper died in the middle of teleporting. After spending the night together, Griffin finally agrees to help David find Millie. They teleport to the airport, but when they arrive, they discover that Millie's flight landed more than an hour earlier. The two split up. Griffin goes to collect his weapons, while David rushes to Millie's house. When David finds Millie, he finally tells her the truth. He admits that he never worked at a bank. Then he begs her to leave with him immediately because her life is in danger. At that moment, David suddenly feels that something is wrong. He realizes Roland has found them. Without wasting any time, David teleports himself and Millie to Griffin's secret hideout. Soon after, Roland and a group of paladins arrive. Roland uses a special tracking spray to find David's teleport trail. The paladins then activate a powerful machine that can reopen the teleport portals left behind by jumpers. Using the machine, they enter Griffin's hideout and begin searching for everyone. David and Griffin hide behind large concrete pillars, hoping the hunters will not see them. While hiding, David notices a photograph of his mother. For a moment, he loses his focus. One of the paladins spots him, and Roland traps David with powerful electric cables. Unable to move, David watches as Roland walks toward him with a dagger. David asks Roland why the paladins hate jumpers when they have done nothing wrong. Roland answers that jumpers will eventually become corrupted by their powers and turn into a danger to humanity. Just before Roland can kill David, Griffin attacks with a flamethrower. The fire forces the paladins to retreat and saves David's life. However, Roland survives. He attacks again and traps Griffin with another electric cable. Believing he has won, Roland reveals a shocking secret. He tells Griffin that he was the one who killed Griffin's family. Filled with anger, Griffin fights back with all his strength. He teleports again and again, smashing Roland through a cave wall and throwing him outside. Meanwhile, Millie hides and searches for David. Griffin launches an even bigger attack. He teleports a large bus from London into the desert, crushing Roland and destroying the paladin's base. The huge explosion leaves Millie completely shocked. Griffin continues using his flamethrower to push the remaining paladins back. Roland barely escapes by using the portal machine and reappears at Millie's house. Still determined to stop him, David follows Roland and continues the fight. During the chaos, Millie manages to free David from the electric trap. David thanks her and apologizes for everything. He decides to take her home safely. Just then, Griffin returns. He says that he has stolen the Paladin's portal machine. Now the remaining hunters are trapped on the other side of the portal. But just before the portal closes, Roland fires one last electric cable. The cable wraps around Millie and pulls her through the portal. David is terrified and wants to go after her immediately. However, Griffin stops him. He reveals a dangerous plan. He wants to send a bomb through the portal to Millie's house, where all the Paladins have gathered. David realizes that Griffin has lost control. If Griffin uses the bomb, Millie could die. Without thinking twice, David grabs the bomb and runs away. Griffin chases him, and the two former friends begin a fierce fight. They teleport from place to place while fighting. First, they battle on top of an Egyptian pyramid. Then they continue fighting across huge city bridges, teleporting every few seconds. Their fight takes them all over the world as they struggle to control the bomb detonator. Finally, David teleports to the top of a tall building and throws the detonator toward the ground, but Griffin refuses to give up. He jumps after it, and the fight continues in the air. Both of them fall into a large swimming pool and barely survive. Next, David teleports to the middle of the Arctic Ocean. Griffin appears in a vehicle and crashes into him, sending them both into the freezing water. A moment later, they teleport again. This time, they appear in the middle of an active battlefield, where explosions are happening all around them. Griffin grabs the detonator and says goodbye to David before trying to leave. As nearby power towers begin to collapse, David grabs Griffin and forces him to teleport into high-voltage power lines. This finally ends their fight. David then returns to Ann Arbor to rescue Millie. He quietly goes toward her house, but it is a trap. The Paladins capture him and wrap powerful electric cables around his body. Filled with anger and determination, David uses all of his strength. His teleporting power becomes stronger than ever. The ground shakes, and Millie's house begins to break apart. David pushes himself to the limit and teleports, taking a large part of the house with him. He crashes into the city river. The water tears the house apart and puts both David and Millie in danger. Millie manages to free herself and swims toward David. To save her, David teleports the remaining part of the house into the public library, completely destroying the building. Both of them barely survive. Suddenly, Roland climbs out of the rubble. David quickly moves Millie to a safe place and faces Roland alone. David tells Roland that he will never become the kind of jumper the Paladins fear. Instead of killing Roland, David shows mercy. He teleports Roland into the middle of a huge desert, thousands of miles away from anyone. A few days later, David visits his mother, Mary. He finally asks why she left him when he was a child. Mary tells him the truth. She has always been a member of the Paladins. When she discovered that David had teleporting powers at the age of 5, she left because she did not want to be forced to kill her own son. She tells David to be careful because the danger is not completely over. She also says that she is willing to give him another chance. With the battle finally over, David reunites with Millie. Now free from danger, they decide to travel the world together and begin a new life. If you enjoyed this movie recap, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below.